Good morning, students. Today we are going to read the crop farming in the topic of agriculture and livestock in the subject of geography O levels. So concentrate yourself. Here we are going to start. The first thing that we are going to read in the lecture is subsistence farming. In this, the produce is consumed by the farmer and his family. So this is a very small scale farming. So the produce is also very small. So that is consumed by the farmer and his family. Any surplus produced, which is very rare. So any surplus produced any year is a bonus and is sold in the market in order to pay off loans or purchase some of the inputs. So this is very rare that some surplus is produced, but if it is produced, so that will be a bonus for the farmer, and he or she will sold the surplus in the market to pay off some of his or her loans and purchase some of the inputs. This farming is done on small scale and traditional methods of the farming are used. So it is quite obvious because the land is very small and this farming is done on the very small scale. And traditional methods of the farming, for example, the charsa, the traditional plowing instruments, and the locally seeds will be used. So these are called traditional method of the farming. Most of the small scale subsistence farmers earn very little from this kind of the farming, as about 34% of the farms are smaller than the standard holding size of the 10 hectares. So it is quite obvious because this is a very small scale farming, because the land is very small and also the traditional methods of the farming is used. So definitely the produce will not be too much and the earning will be very small. The farmers therefore have to supplement this income doing other jobs like working as blacksmith, carpenter, or even cobbler. So this is quite obvious because to meet their expenses, because the produce is very small, so to meet their expenses they have to work some other kind of the work also. For example, blacksmith, carpenter, or even cobbler, etc. A subsistence farmer depends mainly on the natural inputs, that is rainfall, soil without chemical fertilizers, and no insecticide or pesticide. So traditional methods of the farming is used because he has not much money to afford the modern techniques of the farming. Subsistence farms lower than 12 acres. Subsistence farms use animal power. Subsistence farms mostly use charsa and Persian wheel. So these are the traditional methods of the irrigation. Subsistence farms use local desi seeds. Subsistence farms use manure, cow dung. Subsistence farms use family labor. For example, women and children help by preparing fodder for the farm animals as well as food for the men folk. So they work together to meet the expenses of the family. So this is a family farming. Women and children also contribute by milking the cattle or buffaloes, collecting eggs, and making cow dung cakes. Cow dung cakes are used for the fuel purposes. Human inputs of the technical knowledge, wooden plows, and draft animals are transferred generation to generation. So this is a small scale farming, and the knowledge of the farming is shifted from generation to generation. After harvesting the wheat, rabi crops by the start of the summer, other crops like various seasonal vegetables and maize are grown on the subsistence scale in order to satisfy the family needs of the food. So after harvesting the one crop, they actually grow the other one because the land is small, the produce is small, so they have to meet the expenses of the family, so they cannot spare the times. Okay, reasons behind so many farms small in size. So this is very important question. Why most of the farms are very small? So the reasons are the law of the inheritance, because of the inheritance, the land going on divided from generation to generation. So this is the reason most of the farms are small. Next is increase in the population. So because of the increase in the population, the land inherited further and further. So this is another reason. Next is poverty. Farmers sell their land on specific occasions, for example, marriages, dowry, because they do not have any other source of income or any other sources to meet the extra expenses in the form of the marriages and dowries. So they have to sell the land to meet the expenses. The next reason is subsistence nature of the farming, because the land is small, the produce is small, so they do not have much money to buy the more land. So this is the reason the most of the farms are small in size. The next topic is, this is also very important, why is modernization of a farm made more difficult if it is small? So the reasons are small size of the farm. Because of the small size of the farm, because of the lack of the money, they are not able to use the modernization of the farm. The next one is machinery. For example, tractors and harvesters cannot be used because they are expensive, and also the land is small, so feasibility is not met. Next is modern irrigation system ineffective. Again, the same reason, because they cannot afford the modern irrigation system. Also, the land is small, so this is not feasible to use modern irrigation system. Next is not enough in earning to overcome the expenses. Next is illiteracy. Next is poverty. Next is traditional stubborn attitude. Next is Jagirdar system, and next is sharecropping system. Next is shortage of the funds and loans, etc. So this is the reason that the small farms are not in the position of using the modern means of the farming. The next thing that we are going to read in the lecture is cash crop farming, a type of the farming in which crops are grown for sale and thus for earning profit. So this is the definition of the cash crop farming. So a type of the farming in which the crops are grown for sale and thus for earning the profits. Such crops are called cash crops. Cash crops are grown with the aim of providing high yield and maximizing profit. So this is the aim. Examples of the cash crops are rice, cotton, sugarcane, wheat, tobacco, and oil seeds. So these are some examples. Cash crop farms are above 12 hectares. So actually they are big in size. So they have more money and they use modern methods of the farming and they earn a lot. Modern methods and techniques are used that include use of the machinery, that is tractors, threshers and harvesters, chemical fertilizers, HYV seeds. HYV seeds stands for high yield variety seeds, because they are the seeds which produce more as compared to the ordinary seeds. Insecticides and pesticides, canals and tube wells. So because they are using more modern methods, so they produce more and earn more. This is done always on large scale. At the time of harvesting, extra labor is hired to accelerate the process. For example, cotton picking by women who offer very cheap labor. The grower selects a cash crop on the basis of the demand, price, and government policies. So this is the point to be noted, that the grower selects a cash crop on the basis of the demand, price, and government policies. For example, the government most commonly fixes a spot price of the wheat, cotton, and rice and offers subsidies on various inputs. So this is the reason most of the farmers in Pakistan grow wheat. Oil seeds, on the other hand, this is the total opposite example. Oil seeds cultivation has failed to gain popularity because various governments continue to neglect this important crop. So this is the reason farmers are least interested in growing the oil seeds. Major problem of the cash crop farming in Pakistan is the long chain of the distribution. So this is the very important point to be noted. that this is the reason that the prices in the Pakistan of the crops are very high when they reach the final consumer. So look now, major problem of the cash crop farming in Pakistan is the long chain of the distribution that involves the wholesalers, commission agents, and retailers before finally reaches the consumers. As each one shares the profit, the price is increased and the grower earns little profit. So the least advantage is obtained by the final consumer and the grower, because the middlemen who are actually wholesalers, commission agents, and retailers, so the middlemen earn profit. So the profit is distributed in many persons. Next thing that we are going to read in the lecture is the Rabi crops sown by early winter, that is October, November, and harvested by the start of the summer, that is April, May. Need mild to moderate rainfall that comes through the western depression from the December to March. So mild to moderate temperature is required and rainfall comes from the western depression. Wheat, grams, oilseeds, barley, and pulses are major Rabi crops. Next thing that we are going to read is the Kharif crops. This is the reverse of the earlier one. This is sown in the early summer, that is April to June, and harvested in the early winter, that is October, November. Need plenty of the water that comes through heavy monsoon, because this season is of monsoon. So heavy monsoon actually provide plenty of the water for these kinds of the crops. That is July to September. Okay, major kharif crops are rice, cotton, sugarcane, maize, and millets. For both Rabi and Kharif crops, irrigation is necessary. So although the most of the water is given by the monsoon rain, but even then irrigation is necessary. Natural inputs or geographical requirements. These include the temperature, soil, land, and rainfall. So these are the natural inputs or geographical requirements. Now we are going to read the human inputs. What human provide in the irrigation. So these are provided by the human efforts. They improve the natural inputs, irrigation, machinery, chemical fertilizers, capital, HYV, seeds, and variety of the insecticides and pesticides. So these are the human efforts which are put in the farming. The process. These include various activities carried out by the farmers, either manually or with machinery or traditional tools. Plowing, sowing, irrigation, spraying pesticides, insecticides, harvesting, and threshing. So these are the processes which involve in the farming. The next thing is output. So after the processes, the output is obtained. This is the produce or the outcome of the inputs and the processes. For example, wheat grain, cotton balls, and cane stalks. These are some of the examples of the output which are obtained after the human inputs and the processes. Okay, the next thing that we are going to read is the grain crops. These provide food commodities for the human consumption. So this is the definition of the grain crops. So these provide food commodities for the human consumption. Examples are wheat, rice, and grains. So this was the lecture, students. I hope so this will be much more easier for you to understand now. So read this lecture again, understand it, learn it, and make your notes. Thank you so much.